Good morning, Colts Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the No Horsing Around podcast, brought to you exclusively by the Lounge Room Network. As always, we're just two dudes talking Colts. We're your hosts, Steven and Zach. And man, oh man, I'm so glad to be back. I enjoyed my family vacation. Don't get me wrong. Me and Zach talked quite a bit during it still. But man, am I glad to be back talking to you guys. I'm glad to be back on air talking with Zach. And first and foremost, I am glad because as of the recording of this and when it drops, players have been reporting to training camp. Zach, you got goosebumps like me, man?
Dude, man, I'm just so fired up. How long did it feel like it took for us to get here? We've just been going through this all season, so many plot lines, so many storylines. And yeah, man, I'm glad you had a good time with the fam last weekend. George did great. He stepped in. He did amazing. We always love him on the show, but it's never the same, without my co-host on here. It feels a lot better. And I'm kind of back in my groove. So I'm excited that you're back. You're fresh. You're ready to go for training camp. And, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to talk Colts football. I'm ready to get primed and ready to go. And I'm sure as things go, who knows? We may have emergency podcasts as we go along the way. Crazy storylines pop up, but we're excited to follow training camp.
Yeah, and as you guys can tell too, we have a completely different platform. So as people who watch all my stuff, and you guys are watching on YouTube, I have my photo bomber dropping in every once in a while. Once she knows that I go semi-live, she likes to drop bombs. So, okay, say hi and bye. Yeah, okay. So as you guys can tell, the platform's a little different. We look a little different too. We're going to be going live a little more frequently. Like Zach said, breaking news comes in. Zach can log on here really quickly and drop a quick little live reaction video. I can do the same thing. And it's kind of cool too. As you can see on the video, rate, review, subscribe, share, follow, all those things you do on whatever it is you do them on, please go do them. And it's really cool too, because as you can look down at the bottom now, throughout this entire video, you guys are going to be able to see what my Twitter handle is, what Zach's is, NoHorsing, our Instagram, where you go to YouTube. You can see it constantly. So it's constant flooding of information for you guys to go ahead out there and do those things. So we're really pumped about this too. We've got some cool announcements that'll be coming as the season obviously is getting really close now. But dude, like you said, man, we don't hesitate. We jump right in. So the question is, we've got training camp. I feel kind of like as excited as we are, we should probably touch on the news of the day, obviously, which is that our beloved coach, Frank Wright, he did test positive for COVID. And so he's going to miss, I believe, from what I heard, the first 4 practices, or at least he can be back as next Monday. Is that right?
Yeah, I think Ballard said Monday would be possibly Sunday, but probably Monday. They're going to err on the side of caution. A little bit of a bummer, right, Steven? You want your leader, your general there. But he said, listen to that press conference. If there's one thing that they learned last year, they learned how Zoom could be so advantageous to them. And they used Frank Reich. He's involved every single day in all of the meetings, all of the rooms, talking to all of different guys. So I'll just tell you this, man. Although it sucks, I'd rather it happen right now than happen, in season or anything like that. But this in no way for me, and I'm curious your thoughts as well. This in no way for me puts a damper on training camp. I'm just as excited. I'm just as fired up, and I just want to see these guys go out and compete and actually play real football, meaningful football in front of fans, training camp. I'll be there, not this weekend, but next weekend. So anybody let us know if you're going to be out that way. We might look you up. What's your thoughts, Steve?
It does. It puts a damper on it. You're like, dang, but at the same time, you're glad that he's healthy. He's asymptomatic. Chris Ballard repeatedly said that. And kind of depending on, we're not going to get political and do all these different things, but depending on where you sit with the vaccine and things like that, having your coach go down and having to miss time, it sounded like, according to Ballard, like that may have kind of lit a little bit more because we are one of the teams that's kind of lagging behind in the vaccinations. That I think as of training camp yesterday reporting, was 60% of the team. So, I mean, that's positive too. I'm really glad that he's asymptomatic. But at the same time, I do sit here, how much does it we spent the entire offseason last year in Zoom meetings. He's going to be in Zoom meetings. He's going to be either live at the practice watching it, or immediately after he's going to have video. Part of me in my mind, Zach, sees like one of those weird video dollies with his face, like Peyton in the Tide commercial. Like I totally feel like that's going to be Frank on the sideline with like this TV on a stand just going back and forth. The most interesting point, the only big interesting point that I heard, I was listening to Kevin Bowen yesterday, and he brought up how much does it affect Carson to not have Frank on the field these first few days? Does it affect it all? I mean, it's the first 4 practices, but we all know Carson is extremely comfortable with Frank. Does it affect anything? What do you think? Do you think that affects anything when it comes to Carson?
Nah, I really don't. I think that Carson's kind of a veteran at this point. They've had a lot of communication, a lot of conversations. I think Frank Wright mentioned one point in this offseason, he looked at every single one of Carson's throws from last year. They've had these conversations. I think the dialogue's there. They're going to communicate every single day. Yeah, it would be great for him to be right there side by side, person to person, but I don't think this affects Carson his approach. I think, if anything, Carson really seems to have a really good mindset, and he wants to be a leader. He wants to be the man to lead this franchise into this next step. So no, I don't see it being a negative. I think Frank will be back next week. It'll be business as usual, and life goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The biggest takeaway I have from all of it, outside of football, outside of everything, I'm glad he's okay. He is older. I didn't realize. I think he's like 58, 59. So he is on the older end. I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad it didn't spread because obviously, they put the memo out last week that this year there's no rescheduling. There's none of that. If you have a COVID breakout like the Tennessee Titans did last year, you would be forfeiting a game. So I'm in agreement. I'd rather it happen now, and get him back and kind of hit that ball. It's very early. It's a lot of get to know you. And I'm on the same page with you too. I don't know if it affects Carson a ton. Lord knows how much they've talked. Like we know how much they've been around, but Lord knows how much they've talked this actual offseason about expectations and what he's going to do. And I mean, we know he got the playbook in March, and so I don't see it affecting him a ton because I think, they're going to talk all the time anyway. So I wanted to lead off with that because obviously that's like the big news that put the Colts on the front page of everything, of all the different news outlets. Head coach test positive, COVID-19, all this different stuff. And, obviously, like I said, we're not getting political on this. I just wanted to touch on it because it is pertinent news with training camp opening. So with that being said, man, let's get into like the meat of this, man. It's training camp, man. Absolutely. Training camp is finally here, Zach.
No, man. It was just like such a long wait to just get to go out and physically see these players, see them perform together. You work all off season, to make all of these roster moves, to bring all of these guys together, to draft players. And here it is. It's time to bring all of that together and see. I'm excited. I think that probably one of the most excited parts of this camp that I'm looking forward to is that battle for that last cornerback position. Mm-hmm. We've joked on this podcast many, many times about Rock Ya-Sin and all that stuff. But it's going to be an incredible – it's going to be a dogfight. And I really think that, looking into it a little bit, I think they like Rodgers a little bit too. I'm not going to say he's just going to jump everybody here, but I think they saw a little something. He got thrust into that game against the Bills last year. Obviously couldn't come down with that. Just would have been an incredible interception at the end of that second half or the end of that first half. But I think they like him. They like his element. He's a little different than Ballard normally goes for at cornerback because he's on the smaller side. But he's a super, super fast cornerback. He can really, really cover some ground. So you got TJ Carey, you got Rodgers, you got Marvell Tell, you got Rock Ya-Sin. It looks like a four-way battle for who's going to win that job. You got the veteran, You got the guy who Ballard drafted in the second round and just raved about and loved. And then you've got Marvell Tell, who didn't even play last year, right? Like he wasn't even there because of COVID. And then you've got Rodgers, who he drafted late in the draft and, you know, had a little bit of a spurt, you know, a short little sample size. But it was enough to maybe get him on the field and say, all right, let's look at him a little bit more of maybe not a specialist. You know, let's look at him as a cornerback in the NFL and let's see what he's got. Gun to my head, I think going into camp, it's probably going to be a 3-horse race. It's probably going to be Tell, Carey, or Rock Ya-Sin. And I think when it's all said and done, I think TJ Carey is a fighter and probably is going to win that job. That's my opinion. It's very early on. Who knows? I could be wearing a Rock Ya-Sin jersey by the time of the season.
Hey, you know it's out there, man. You know it's floating around.
We'll just have to see, man. We'll just have to see. What are you excited about, man? Are any position battles or just anything?
Man, it's just for me, like off the top, it's just the idea that the players that they're here, that we're gonna get. It means like I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and I was like, you feel football season now. Like you feel that football season is finally here. I'm kind of excited to see. Well, one, I mean, obviously everyone's excited to see how Carson's going to do. How's he going to look now? You know, Kevin Bowen said it best when I was listening to him. He was like, he's done all the homework. Now it's time for the test. Yeah. Let's see what he looks like. But also, I'm actually really intrigued. As much as we've beaten it to death, is the receiver position and where that sits, because to hear Ballard speak at his press conference, that's open. It's still a very open competition. I know me and you have talked about, like, we feel like the top 4 are locked in, but that 5, that 6, are they going to carry 5? Are they going to carry 6? You know who I'm really interested. I mean, obviously, I'm running, you know, head on with Paris Campbell on how he's going to do, but a player that has really intrigued me since the draft has been Michael Strawn. And to hear George talk about him, to hear, you know, to read the articles that Zach Kiefer and Stephen Holder have written, and to kind of see the buzz, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see, is he going to battle a little bit? And then kind of flipping over with Carson too, is I'm actually as excited as I am to see him actually take the field. I'm really excited to see the backup battle. How does Eason actually look? As excited as I am that Carson's our starting quarterback, I'd be lying if I didn't say I want to see Jacob Eason in a game. I've wanted to see it since last year. I want to see how he looks. Does he look like the backup? Does he look like he's ready? And then also, like your guy, Sam Ehlinger, how does he look? Dude, there's so many topics going into training camp that, like, I put an ask out for questions and just got inundated with them, just inundated. But I mean, it's a very interesting topic. And then also just like, I'm curious, and I want to get your take on this, this is the first training camp that Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, that they're going to be in front of the fans at training camp, in front of actual fans at preseason, and in front of a full stadium. Do we think that has an effect on them? Like they've not really played in a, I guess, quote unquote NFL game. Do we think like this is going to affect them a little bit as we kind of look through and go through training camp? I mean, there's going to be noise. They're away. I like that too. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I kind of rambled, you know, we'll kind of filter down, but I mean, yeah, dude, I'm so giddy.
yeah, man. No, it's a good point. I think the sound will have an effect early in the season. I'm talking about like the first month, 3 or 4 games. I think those guys, you just can't replicate that type of volume of fans really going crazy, you know, and just sounding off in a loud stadium. Lucas Oil Stadium can get very, very loud. But I think it's going to be very welcome. It's going to be something awesome for those guys when they score those touchdowns. You know, I can just see Jonathan Taylor breaking one off for 40 or 50 yards and taking it to the end zone, and for him to finally feel what it's like to have Lucas Oil just erupt for a run like that. You know, or, just like your guy, the maniac, an interception, a strip, a sack, just to feel that energy that the Colts nation is going to bring. I think it's going to be very, very welcomed. Another position, I'm a little intrigued is with the left tackle. We don't know what's going to happen with Eric Fisher,
Right.
and I think it's pretty much the consensus that Sam Tevi is going to win that left tackle job, and I'm not so sure, to be honest. I
You've
think
not been high on him. You've not liked him.
I just don't think that when it's all said and done, I know they brought him in as kind of a little bit of a reassurance. I'm not positive he wins that starting left tackle job. If I'm Ballard and I'm looking at guys and it's close, I want to see what I got in my young guys so I know who I could move forward with down the road potentially, or B, do I have my solid, backup first man off the bench if I need somebody to come in the middle of a game? And Tevi doesn't seem like a long-term solution. I think if everything goes crazy, Tevi is a bridge guy that can maybe get you through a few games. But I don't know that it's as much a lock in the Colts' mind that Tevi wins that left tackle job. Will he start there day one? Probably so, because he's a veteran. But I don't think at the end of the day it's just a slam dunk situation where Tevi wins that left tackle job. So I'm interested to see those guys kind of fight for that spot. It's intriguing. We'll just have to see. I mean, it's going to be. I think it's going to be an awesome camp, Stephen. I really do. I think it's going to be a good camp. Fingers crossed for no major injuries. We're trying to stay out of ACL territory or anything season ending. You feel like every single year it happens to all kinds of teams. We've already seen it happen with Cam Akers out there in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sucks, man. I mean, no matter who you root for, you just hate to see that. You want to see your best team and you want to see them beat the other team's best team. So yeah, man, let's just hope for health. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome training camp.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about health too, like I think that's the biggest question for us, hands down, across the board, because we haven't been. Like there's and there's a lot of players who are on our team right now who have health questions. I'm interested. So I'm about to get back to you again because I want to hear what you think with this is, does the idea that Fisher's opening the season on PUP, does that change your thought process on how many games he ends up missing?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a precautionary thing. I think worst case scenario, he ends up on PUP. Best case scenario, they can make him active right there. I think even up to about 1 or 2 days before the season starts. And then, you saw Ballard do it, back in the past where a guy, had missed a few games and he decided to not just IR him. He decided to just go ahead and ride with that roster and just stick it out for 2 or 3 games. I think Fisher misses 2 or 3 games, and that's probably about the 4. That's the max for me. I think they're pretty confident in his rehab. They sound pretty confident in my mind.
Yeah, and even in Ballard's press conference, that was something he mentioned was he's on point. Like he wouldn't give details. I mean, would you expect him to? No. Like Ballard's not giving any details. But he said he's on track. He looks good. And he said the same thing about he did, unless I'm mistaken, he did say that he's ahead of Dio. I think he did say that, or someone reported that. Someone said that he's a little bit ahead of Dio in the rehab process, which I think we can expect because 1, he's a veteran, he knows how to rehab, and 2, I feel like we covered it in the offseason that he had some sort of experimental one, some new surgery on it that was a little different than what Dio did.
Right.
So I mean, I've said that I've kind of always erred on the higher end of 4 games is what I think he's going to miss. I am very interested because I do think Tevi probably does start only because I don't know who's the other option. I don't want what is it? It's Davenport. I don't want him. He's not looked good. I think you're going to see. I do think you're going to see a lot of quick dumps.
I think Will Holden's got a chance.
I do like that one. I'm okay with Will Holden.
He got hurt last year, and his small sample size, I thought he looked solid, to be honest with you.
I would prefer that. I would, over all options until Fisher comes back, I would 100% prefer Holden. I think he can hold his own. He's played with that line before. And I mean, I think they bank on the idea that whoever is, it's stopgap. You expect Fisher to be back, and whoever you put next to Quentin Nelson is going to be okay. I mean, you have future Hall of Fame, All Pro, Pro Bowl, all the accolades you can get. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but I had a buddy of mine pull me aside and I hate to go off like on a tangent with it, but it's about Q. Is he got rated, I think, the fourth best player in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
In some rating system. And I had a buddy of mine pull me aside and was like, how? He's a guard. I was like, dude, just watch him play, man. Just watch it. And he is a once in a generation talent. And I think they're banking on him. I mean, another position, I'll tell you something else that does intrigue me is, as I'm looking at it, it is the pass rush. The pass rush is always going to be an interesting thing. They can say what they want about that it is an open competition on both ends. I think you and I, George, Cody, when he came on, anybody we've talked to feels, Quiddy's got one of those positions locked down. Like, that's his. So what's going to happen with the other? Because you've got Kamoko Toure, you got Ben Banigou. We know how you feel about Ben Banigou. So, I mean, that really, because that's got to be better. So
Ben Banaboo. That's what we call that.
But do you still think he doesn't make the team?
I don't. Come
on, stick to it, Zach.
No, I think he gets cut.
Wow. No, well, let me ask this: cut or traded? Do you think he tries to trade him?
Maybe tries to trade him, but I don't think it happens. I think he just gets cut. I think teams know that he's going to be on the market if they end up cutting him. There's no sense in even giving any resources up. No, I don't think he makes the team. I really don't. I think Taekwon Lewis has got a shot to go out there and compete on that end. They brought in Rochelle from the Chargers to kind of compete. I wouldn't be shocked, like if in the middle of camp or right at the end, if there's a veteran defensive end and preseason things don't look great, maybe they bring in a veteran guy on a 1-year deal and say, listen, chance to win, a chance to compete for a championship, play on a really good, solid playoff team. It's a 1-year deal. We're not going to sign you to anything special. We're not going to pay you a whole lot, but it's a chance to win, and that's the biggest selling point. I wouldn't be real surprised if that ends up happening. And I think a lot of people have to – it all boils down to will Dial get back? How many games will he play? They're not going to rush him back this year. I mean, we want him back. They want him back. But I think if anything they've ever learned in the past from some of the injuries, they're not going to rush this guy back. They believe in him. They believe that he can really I think there's a belief inside of Colts brass that they have their bookends now moving forward. I think they feel like they've got their two guys. The jury's still out. We'll have to see. But I think they feel very confident they got two guys that can really, really, really move the needle. And we'll have to see, man. But, yeah, Ben Banigou, I don't think that he makes this football team this year. I'll stick with that. We'll do a final. I'm sure as it gets down, we'll do a final roster prediction and all that good stuff. That'll be real fun. But if you're listening to this podcast, don't expect Ben Banigou to be on my final 53.
Ooh, I'll tell you. I mean, it's there's so many questions that I have. I mean, I'm not shocked by that. One, me and you have talked about this. It's been out there for a while that's kind of the feeling that you have. But also, Ballard is known to cut bait if you do not show what you need. If he doesn't see it, I don't have to see it. You don't have to see it. He has to see it. But if he doesn't, he's not afraid. He's not afraid to pull the trigger, cut you, trade you, do whatever he needs to do. He's so secure in himself and what he does in his process. He doesn't care. I feel like there's only inside that building, there's probably two people he cares what they think for the most part, and that's probably Frank and that's Jim, and or Mr. Irsay. That is it. I don't think he really cares what the outside media thinks. I mean, he's such a good GM, man. That's all I can say. He tells you so much without telling you a dang thing every single time.
That's
like
true.
he just kind of lays it out there for you. You know, we know Paris is healthy. We know Marlon's healthy. You know, and when you're talking about a veteran here for pass rush, I got this question today, and we'll get there. We might get to it during social media sessions. Is the name Justin Houston still floats out there? He is still out there. You know, he's a veteran who knows the system, who could provide a little bit of a pop if it's needed. So I mean, there's options.
Right.
Not my favorite option.
I think Justin Houston would come back to the Colts if we were to have an injury, if we were to have just a training camp where we felt like, oh my gosh, like we're in trouble at this position. You know, we need something here. You know, I think they had an opportunity to do that. I think he would have been just fine signing back. And sounds like Justin's really secure in what he wants. He wants to play for a contender. He wants to get paid X amount of dollars. And if not, you know, he's had a great career. He may just walk away from football. You never know. You know what I mean? Like he may just end up saying, you know what? I've had a great career. I've had a great run. I may just end up walking away from football because he's been in a few different buildings and he's walked away without any type of contract at all.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's a name to monitor. I know it was floated out there. Chandler Jones is on the trade market. Yeah. That just doesn't feel very Chris Ballard-ish, you know, like to give up any type of real assets, especially in a scenario where you're smack dab in the middle of trying to sign Darius Leonard and Braden Smith to an extension. You know, nothing will piss off your team on the inside thinking, you know, where's my money? Where's my deal at? You know what I mean? And you're out here trading for another guy who's on another team. Not going to say it's impossible to happen, but it doesn't feel very Chris Ballard-ish.
Well, so you brought up a great thing is the extensions. You know, as we sit here too, like we know that they're out there. We know that they've had productive talks. Do you think? Let me ask you this. Okay, I'm going to ask you. We're gonna go off the cuff because it's kind of fun when we do this. 2 questions. Is do you think that? Well, let's just go 1. Do you think that any extensions are signed before the start of the season?
Yes.
And then to piggyback, so my second question is, do you think it's 1 or 2? Do you think it's Braden Smith and Darius Leonard, or do you think it's just one of them?
I think Darius gets done first.
I do too. I think it means more for him.
Correct. I think the optics of it and just the way it's all the dynamic of it. Look, it's going to cost $100 million plus to sign Darius, and that's a lot of money. And I know there's been a lot of talk. I've had people kind of reaching out to me is, you know, at what point is it too much money at his position? I think it's a fair argument. I really do, Stephen. I think it's a fair argument. I think he deserves his money. I think he's going to get paid, and I'm damn glad that he's a Colt and he's going to be a Colt for a long time. That's the hopes that I have. It's a fair argument, though. You know, when we want to talk about roster construction, we want to talk about how much money do we want to sink into these premium positions. Premium positions being left tackle, quarterback, right tackle. You know, some could argue right tackle is a more premium position than his position on the field. Yeah. That being said, you know, I think Chris Ballard, to summarize, had a really good statement. He said, great players deserve to, I don't care what position they play, they just deserve to get paid. You know what I mean? And I think at the end of the day, he means so much to us, you know, on and off the field. He's our emotional leader. And it's a guy that you feel like when you pay him this contract, it's not just going to be a type of deal where he gets his money and he's done. He truly wants to get paid, but he's chasing greatness. He's chasing Super Bowl rings and he's chasing greatness. So I'm all for it. I say 5 years, 100 million, 5 years, 102 million. I think that's where they settle at. I think that's anything over that. I don't think it gets done this year. I'll say that. I'm not going to say it's not ever going to be done, but anything that he asks beyond that, I don't think that it's going to be a simple solution. And I think he would, at that point, Ballard would need to know, okay, what do I got to do to sign Smith? What do I got to do to sign Nelson? Where are we at salary cap wise at total here? And can I even make this happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's a big, large number to pay, and you're going to have 3 huge contracts. There's no way of slicing it up. You're going to have Darius Leonard, Braden Smith, and Quentin Nelson next year. I don't think they're going to even get to Quentin until next year.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, you want to talk about setting the market. I mean, it's huge contracts, you know, and to piggyback off of that, there's a great argument out there that with Ballard being so patient, does he actually end up costing the team money sometimes? You know, there's been a couple players, you know, Warner out in San Francisco just got the $95 million deal, highest paid linebacker in the NFL. A lot of people would ask this question: had Ballard already signed his contract, would he have gotten a better deal for the Indianapolis Colts? You know, now it's always, hey, this guy's 95, you got to pay me more because I'm setting the market.
Right.
You know, if you're the last to go to it, you're going to be the last person to set the market. Now, there's a lot of variables to that. You know, their agents could also be saying, no. We want everybody to be signed before our guy because we do want to set the market. We want to see where the market's at. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think, nevertheless, I think they're going to be Colts. I don't think they walk away.
Yeah, I mean, I think Darius gets signed first because I think it means more to him to be that guy, to be the precedent setter. I don't think Braden Smith, he's going to be out in his garden and his agent's going to call him and be like, hey, we signed you, dude. And he'll be like, okay. And then he'll be like, don't you want to know how much you're getting? Okay. You know, that's what I feel like was going to be with Braden. But I also feel like Darius strikes me as the player that I think he's going to be. I love the parameters for the contract that you said. I think that's so spot on because Warner's making about $19 million a year, somewhere around there, and I feel like Darius is going to be perfectly content with as long as he's making more. I mean, it could be $1 million more. It could be $100,000. Like I think he's okay as long as he's the highest paid. I mean, and it seems to be that. I mean, I trust Ballard. And I think he has a good relationship with the players. I think he has a really good relationship with Darius Leonard. So, I mean, I do think they both get done. I 100% agree. I don't think they touch Quentin until next year because he's under a 5th-year option. He's making a boatload of money this year already because of that. I don't think they touch him. But I do think they get done because when you hear them talk too, they're not contentious talks. They're very fluid. They're very open. Like there's no issue between them. It is interesting that that Darius is not going to open up training camp playing because he had the little knee surgery, the little knee procedure, or not knee, the ankle procedure that to kind of clean up a couple of little things, and they don't seem worried about that at all. I mean, I'm not. No. But yeah, I mean, I think they get done. I think they get done. I think Darius 100% gets done. I'll be interested. I do feel like that Braden is going to be able to get done too. But I do think that it'll be an interesting thing. So, man, I'm just so excited about training camp, dude. We can talk for hours. Just so everyone knows, these streams can last like 4 hours if we felt like it.
Can you believe that this time next week when we're having our podcast, we're going to be actually talking about real practices, real football, highlights, who stood out, who didn't stand out. I mean, it's just going to be an absolute – for us, people who love Colts football and in the podcasting world, tomorrow the play button gets pushed. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's full speed ahead. It's on, and I'm excited, man. And I just want a quick second before we even dive into something. And when we try to do it in the beginning, but it's because the people who listen to us, they've done such a great job of liking, sharing, subscribing, supporting us. We're able to take it to the next level. We're able to kind of, move our stuff to StreamYard, where we have more interactive shows, where we're able to actually be there. We have a good enough fan base now where we can actually communicate and we can actually talk to you and do some of these shows as we, we flip the switch in season and we go live, and we can really talk. And one thing that I did want to hit on, we're going to have a really, really nice giveaway. Steve and I talked about it quite a while ago, but we're going to get into it. We haven't announced it yet. We're going to make a special announcement. Bear with us. I'd like to do that on some sort of a live stream. So yeah, we're going to do some nice giveaways, and we're going to have a hell of a season, Steven, man.
I know, man. Well, you took the words out of my mouth too, because obviously we're getting ready. We're going to segue for the second half of the show into social media sessions powered by One Call Technology, but you took the words right out of my mouth. Like I wanted to take a second here. We always do it in the beginning. We kind of do it in the middle. We always do it at the end. And thank everybody, man. Everybody who listens to us, because we got kind of through this offseason. This is the first offseason of No Horsing Around. It's the first offseason. And, there's a lot of times that these podcasts open up, and Zach knows, and I know that they don't get through the offseason, or they're not able to produce the content, and they get kind of stagnant. And we not only were able to produce it with you guys and helping, and I mean, we had entire shows with questions. We grew, and we've grown to this to where, like, Zach kind of let the cat out of the bag. Like, we're going to do some live shows during the year. We're going to tweak things up. We're going to do some really cool things. We got some great giveaways. We got the Fantasy Football League with you guys, and we'll give updates on that throughout the season too in these podcasts. So make sure you're listening and you're subscribed and all of those things so you can get those updates. I mean, we've gotten that. We're able to now move over to StreamYard, where we're way more interactive with you guys. I mean, and it's so cool. Zach's going to training camp. I'm coming up to Indianapolis for a game this year. So I mean, we're odds are we'll do some sort of live stream from the game. We'll do so. Thank you guys first and foremost for being able to do this. And when I say that we've grown, like literally, we're getting ready to go into social media sessions, and then I put the ask out today. And it's insane. And the coolest thing with this new platform we have is not only am I going to be able to read the questions, I'm going to be able to show you guys these questions too, and be able to give these people who submit the questions a platform and you can see their names. So if I butcher the name, because sometimes that happens, you see the name, you see where it comes from. So, I mean, we're excited. So let's go, we'll kind of segue right into that. I mean, we got the social media sessions powered by One Call Technology. Obviously, One Call Technology is your beginning end for telecommunication needs. If you think you're paying too much on your phone bill or you need a new phone system, give them a call, go to the website. And I was talking to my buddy who I work with, Adam, and I always joke, Zach, can never remember the phone number. So great thing about StreamYard is check out the bottom, because I just put the phone number down there. So now I know it's 1-888-585-8850. So it's fantastic. I don't have to even remember. I'm on autopilot with that now. So let's just jump into these questions. Let me pull them up real quick. I mean, so we had, I'm not even kidding, man. It was just an insane amount of questions that came in that just shocked me. But let's kind of go through. Give me a second. Live TV, really live air. It logged me out. But here we go. Here we go. No one sees my password, so it's all good. Yes, that's right. Okay, so like I said, we put the ask out for the questions, and the questions just flooded in. I mean, just an insane amount coming from you guys, an insane amount that's why we're trying to take as much time as possible here at the end of the show to go through them. So let's kind of start with, we've got our boy Vinny from Fantasy Football Revamped. Shout out to him. His show is doing fantastic. If you guys are interested in fantasy football, he's done a great job. Very proud of Vinny. So his question is, do you think DeMichael Harris makes the Colts final roster? And who would be your top 6 wide receivers to make this team?
Let me go first?
Yeah, go for it, man.
I'm gonna do like you, Steven. I'm gonna turn my hat around.
Oh,
man, we're gonna get serious about this right now.
Zach has turned the hat around.
I absolutely love Twitter questions, man. I think it's just so cool to interact with everybody. Vinny, like you said, you took words out of my mouth, Steven. If you're looking for something on fantasy football, you want to check something out, Dude's accessible. You can ask him questions. He gets back with you very fast. He's got a really good thing going. So I would check out Fantasy Football Revamped. Two-parter. First parter, do I think DeMichael Harris makes the final roster? I do not. I really like DeMichael Harris. I think he has a really, 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 large upside. I just think on this football team, we're in win now mode, and we want to get the best players for this system, for Carson Wentz. And in this system, I think he's just outside. I don't think we keep 6 wide receivers this year, to be honest with you. I don't think we carry 6 because I think there's going to be some other positions, tight end, quarterback, that we may be a little heavier than we would have been in years past, even offensive line. So I think we keep 5. So I'll round it out with my top 5 because, you don't need 6 if you're not going to keep 6. So
right.
I'll go T.Y., Michael Pittman. I'll go Pascal. I'll go Paris Campbell. And for the 5th spot, I'm going to go Doolin. I think just because of his special teams ability, and he actually got on the field a little bit last year. I think it wasn't a lot, but like sneakily, he started getting on the field as the season went on. They started using him a little bit. That'd be my top 5. If I had to throw in a 6, I would go. I think I probably would go with Strahan. I think I probably would. I think he would beat out Patman, but I think those guys are going to be probably stash guys for the practice squad this year. Anyways, that's me. What do you think, Steve?
So obviously, top 4 is the exact same for me. If I want to be contrarian and make an argument for DeMichael Harris to make it, it is the injury proneness of my boy Paris Campbell. He fits the same role as Paris does. So do they feel the need to carry a receiver who can plug into that? I'm going to say no. I think they really do trust that these are fluky injuries, that Paris is going to be fine this year. I've gone on record. I think it's 1,000 yards. I think I went with 8 touchdowns. I don't think I went too ballsy and went to 10, but I think I went around like 5 to 8, but I definitely had 1,000 yards for him. I'm going to differ on my 5th receiver. I think it's Patman because he is a different body type than any other receiver we have on the roster. He's big, he's bulky, he plays bully ball when he can. He's been a year in the system. But I 100% go with, if I were to go 6, I'm with you. I think there's a real shot that Strawn, if they were to carry 6, would be that 6. I actually think there's a very real shot he's like the camp star. Like he is the dude who just eye-popping catches, makes your jaw drop. I think there's a very real possibility that that's the case on the offensive side of the ball. Kind of like I look at him like he could be like Paris was 2 years ago and last year, or who was I thinking of? Darius Fountain, who always showed up but just couldn't stay healthy. I could see him just producing those eye-popping things, those eye-popping moments in camp. So, but I'm with you. Because the other part too is there's 3 tight ends, and you want to keep probably all 3. So at a certain point, and I agree with you too. Do you trust Eason enough to just keep him? You're probably going to keep Ellinger too. So you're going to be heavier at some of the positions that you're not normally heavy on. So, Vinny, man, great question. So let's move on. So I post in the Facebook groups. Y'all have heard me say it all the time. Colts Facebook sometimes is a frightening place. So this one was, how will Wentz do? And this is from Anthony Roberts.
To summarize, how will Wentz do?
Yes, tell me how you think Wentz will do. We've not talked about that enough this offseason.
Yeah, it's a question I haven't really thought a lot about, Steven. But, no, I'm just joking, man.
I've not even thought about it once. We're gonna filter through these two because I got a ton of Wentz questions. I think he is going to have a really good year. I don't think he's quite good enough to propel us to like this historic Super Bowl run.
I hope to God I'm wrong. Like I really do. Like please, Carson, prove me wrong. You know what I mean? Just go out and just light it up and win the MVP and all that shit. And we can just celebrate and I'll buy your jersey and life goes on. But
I've already got the jersey. I'm not wearing it tonight, but opening day when we do our first live stream, I will be wearing the jersey.
Yeah. I think he has a really good season. I mean, we've already talked about it. I think the Colts have a real shot at winning 13 games this year. I do.
Yeah.
They can just get through that first little patch of the season. The main thing with Carson, let's get some confidence instilled in him. Let's make sure this system works well for him. Let's get some wins. I'm not so worried about how he responds to the good moments. I'm much more worried about how he responds to the bad moments. How does he bounce back from that game that he was supposed to win, or that play that he should have made, but he threw the ball into the other team's hands? How does he come back the next week and respond? How does he come back in game? You know, Andrew Luck was so good at, you know, he'd play 3 quarters of football and have 3 interceptions. And then the next thing you know, you look up, they're down by 21 and he leads his team back to a fourth quarter win. You're like, what the hell just happened? You know what I mean? Like he was so good at just shrugging those bad moments off and just moving on to the next play. You know, that famous Andrew Luck hitting his helmet like that, you know, when he was walking off this. But I think that was just a mechanism for him to say, okay, I'm pissed off. I'm taking it in right now, and then I'm moving on to the next play. Like, it's over. I got to come back, and I got to compete. Can Carson get to that point where he realizes, and I think he can. I think Frank's going to – Frank is kind of like, you know, I hate this. I really hate this when people say quarterback whisperer, because I'm like, come on. You know,
God, he 100% is.
But if there ever were a quarterback whisperer, you think about Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers in his career, all we know of Phillip Rivers is gunning the ball down, throwing those 50-50 balls up. You know, you never know what you're going to get out of Phillip. He had found some way in season to convince Phillip Rivers to just make the right play. Yeah. And when he did that, I mean, you just saw this team take a whole different leap, and they really were a damn good football team. You know, Phillip just had a little bit – if he'd had just a little more gas in his tank, you know, he would have probably found a way to beat the Buffalo Bills, because we were, I mean, at the end of that game, we were just a couple of plays at the end from having a chance to really do something special in that game. But my point is, Frank's was able to kind of talk a guy who'd been in the league for 17 years to do something different. You know, like, how special is that as a coach to say, listen, I know you're a Hall of Fame quarterback. I know you're a great quarterback. I know you see the field, but I'm asking you to look at it just a little bit different. I'm asking you to throw the football away in situations where you normally wouldn't have thrown the football away. I'm asking you to make the check down instead of throwing that 50-50 ball. I'm asking you to throw the ball on a 3rd and 7, 6 yards, and making our wide receiver, our tight end, our running back make a play and get that last yard instead of throwing a ball into triple coverage and just hoping we come down with it. So, yeah, Carson, I know that was a little bit long-winded, but I got high hopes for Carson this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of set from the very beginning. I mean, I beat that drum. I talked about it when I was still doing my solo show before too, was that I'm excited. Do I think it's MVP Carson? Am I Dan Orlovsky with my Colts blue shaded glasses on? Absolutely not. But I do think he has a very, very real possibility of winning Comeback Player of the Year. You know, I think that's a very, very real possibility for him. Because also, like you brought up Rivers, we know that Frank had a very special relationship with him, only surpassed by his relationship with Carson. So there's a sense of belief from Carson to Frank and Frank to Carson. So, I mean, I feel really good. I think he's going to have a good year. I've said 4,000 yards. I've said 40-plus touchdowns. Now, granted, I do think there's probably like 15 to 17 interceptions mixed in there too. Yeah. And we both went on record when we did a preview show of when the schedule dropped of how we felt. And I think did you have 13 and I had 12, or did you have 14 and I had 13? We were really close with what we had.
We have to. I mean, that's back in the archives, man. I mean, that was
I've got them all on my computer.
That was maybe the second or third podcast I believe that we did. I mean, I think that was early on. You're right. We were right around that 12, 13, 14 win season. And I feel confident in that, to be honest with you. I think that's right where they're going to be this year. I think we're going to kind of hit people. And I've said it in the past. I'll say it again. I think the Indianapolis Colts are this year or last year's Buffalo Bills. I think we come out of nowhere. We have a really, really good season. And when everybody looks up, they're going to say, "Oh man, this team has a chance to push the Kansas City Chiefs for a Super Bowl."
I'm right with you, man. So we're gonna do a couple more questions. As you guys who are watching us on YouTube, thank you. If you've not subscribed, make sure you please hit the subscribe. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please make sure you hit the follow. But if you are visual, because we love the visual nature of what we're able to do now and bringing up the content and letting you guys see all these lovely people who submitted questions to us. Yes, I had to sift through. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I want to get to all of them, but we have a limited amount of time. And also at the same time, there's a lot of questions about Carson. So we kind of answer that. But one that kind of, as I'm scrolling through here, that piqued my interest is how long will it take for Hot Rod to put Pinheiro in his place? I picked that one because obviously, me and Zach talk all the time. We have high levels of respect for Kevin Bowen, and he's definitely one of the few Colts podcasts that I do listen to, especially in the off season. And he came out and said, that's a very real competition. Like, we can think that it's not. We love Hot Rod. We love Respect the Specs, but it's a very real competition. He did cost you a couple of games, and I don't know if it's putting him in his place. I do think Hot Rod wins it. I don't see Pinheiro beating him, but I mean, I think we'd be remiss to say that Ballard brought him in as you would say, Zach, a soft body for Hot Rod to beat out.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think that Pinheiro has a real chance to make the team. I don't think that he was sold on this pipe dream. Hey, you just come in, man, you might have a chance. I think he has just as good of a chance to make this team as Hot Rod, to be honest with you. I think it's that dead even. I think that the Colts want that competition. They want to push him. They don't want Hot Rod to be just, completely comfortable. Hey, this is your job for life type of deal. And I think they want to see if the leg strength's there. I think that's the one question that we all kind of have. I know he hit that 50-yarder last year. I think it might have even been like a 52, 53-yarder. But that being said, that was one of the few that he hit from, 46, 47 and on. He wasn't really, really consistent. He didn't show incredible leg strength. One thing that he did miss a few extra points last year, which was a little bit frustrating. But all in all, I thought he had a pretty good rookie season, to be honest with you. I thought, considering, the circumstances, you've got a Hall of Fame guy that you're coming behind, which is an incredible human being. The fact that he's a Hall of Famer, he's going to lose his job, and he's still there to support Hot Rod and Adam Vinatieri. So kudos to number 4 for doing that. But man, I think he probably is still going to win this job, but I think it's very, very close. And if you told me when the final cuts came out that Pinheiro won the job, I'm not going to be sitting around here. We're not going to have a big half-hour segment discussion about, like, we can't believe this happened. This came out of left field. It's real. It's a real competition between two veterans. that are in a kicking competition. One man will win the deserving man will win the job. And I thought last year, Chase McLaughlin probably was going to win that job, and I was shocked that Hot Rod came in and took it from him. Same thing might happen this year.
Yeah, I mean, the whole important thing is Ballard's not going to bring somebody in to be just somebody for him to beat out. Like he was going to push every single player to be the best that they can be. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I love me some Hot Rod. I mean, I do. I think everybody does. He's just a cool guy. But in the end, you got to make the kicks. I think you hit it on the head. The biggest question with him has always been leg strength. Is can he hit the long kicks at the right time? So I forgot to say this on the front end. Shout out to Sarah Long. That's who submitted the question. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for submitting these. We're going to do one more. Let's kind of go through here. I'm skipping. I love you all, but I'm not going to talk about the vaccine, you guys. Okay. Kevin Morg. He asked, what will Marlon Mack's role be? How will Hines and he be involved in the offense? And then part 2, he's got 3 parts. Who will step up and secure the wide receiver 2 and 3? And then 3 is, will the D be ready for the big aerial assaults coming their way from Seattle and the Rams and other early opponents? Thank you, Kevin, for the question, man.
That's a meaty
little 3-parter. Little meat on the bone to end the social media session.
Absolutely. So let's just go down the line. First of all, Kevin, man, thanks for interacting. Great question, by the way. Great questions, I should say. What will Mac's role be? I think he's going to be more of your just a supplemental running back is what I would say. They are going to find ways, I think, to get Mac involved in the football games. That being said, I think Jonathan Taylor is your bell cow. He's your workhorse. He's who you want to stay with. He's a great insurance policy if something happens with Jonathan Taylor in season, any type of injury. You've got a vet that you can trust. Nyheim Hines, I think they're really they're exploring, I heard today they're exploring longer routes with Nyheim. They're going to use him a little more like a slot receiver. Dude, I'm telling you, he's a dangerous weapon. I mean, he can really be used in such a unique way. And he runs hard enough when you hand him the football that he's an actual threat to take the football and run and get, a large gap. He doesn't normally have a huge high yard per carry. We all know that. He's a little smaller guy. But you can't just assume when he's handed the football, you're going to just tap him and he's going to fall down. He's a small guy, but he's not a little guy. He's strong. He works very hard on his body, his balance. He's a true pro. I think
he reminds you, Zach, a little bit for some reason in my head, and I don't want to go too far because I know we're rounding out the questions. For some reason he reminds me of Darren Sproles. He's not that small, but the speed, the shiftiness, the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He reminds me of that new age version. For those who don't know who that is, I would say a lesser version of maybe an Alvin Kamara. That's who he kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, I think he's – so if I'm going to say this, it's going to probably sound crazy that I say this, but I think he's a better receiver than Sproles all in all. Like Sproles was amazing at catching a screen and taking it and busting it to the house. But Hines can actually run routes. You know what I mean? Like he's actually
so scary.
Put some of the route tree for you, which is – I think he's a better receiver, probably not as good of a running back. Sproles a little thicker frame. Hines a little different. But, man, when you talk about a running back who can go out and morph into this wide receiver in a game, and it's not just gimmicky. He's not just a guy out there to kind of throw you off. If you come off of him and you sag off of him, they're going to find a way to beat you with Hines. He can catch that football. We've all seen some of those crazy jackknife flips he does when, spinning off people's bodies. He's a special player, man. I really like him. I hope he's a Colt. I hope he gets a second contract. I know there's going to be he may be one of those weird guys in the market that gets a little overpaid and Ballard says, nah, man, this is too rich for my blood. Good for Nyheim.
I can see it.
We're happy for Nyheim that he got a good contract, but I don't know that we're going to necessarily stick with Hines if he wants to go for a major deal. But I'm all for them re-signing him for another 3 years when it's all said and done. And then the third part of that question, was it defense?
Yeah, he was asking about, do we think the defense is ready for the fact that, you've got Seattle, you've got LA, you've got these big-time aerial attacks that are coming right out of the gate. Well, do we think the D is going to be ready?
I think so, as ready as you can be when you're playing against the Hall of Fame Russell Wilson and then Matt Stafford. Yeah, I mean, we raved about him. He was one of my I just wanted Stafford really bad, to be honest with you. When it all came about and that news kind of broke, I thought Stafford was going to be a Colt. I thought it just makes too much sense. really good football teams. Really good football teams. But yeah, I think our defense will be set up. And one thing about our defense, if it's playing properly, we're not usually going to get beat with a lot of deep passes. We keep things in front of us. So I think lots of yards. You're going to see a lot of times you'll see games when the Colts play, our defense will get above a lot of yards, but not as many points because we want to hold you to field goals. We want to turn you over, force fumbles, get timely sacks and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think we're equipped to stop them. Yeah.
Well, and it's important to note, too, with what you're saying, too, with this question. So I'm going to start with that portion, and then I'll work my way up real quick. Is with that portion, I think they're absolutely ready because it's always important to note when a season starts, the defenses are always ahead of the offenses. Defense comes out ready to play because it's a different kind of way that they can do it. They always come out ready, a lot of returning players. I'm not as concerned, like you said, too. We play that defense that keep it in front of you. So you're going to force like a Matthew Stafford and a Russell Wilson to play, dink and dunk is ideally what you want to do. So I think they'll be ready. Running back wise, obviously Jonathan Taylor's the bell cow. We know that. We expect that. Marlon Mack, his role, I've kind of gone on record. I think he's the Jordan Wilkins role. I think that's the position he's in because I don't see Jordan Wilkins being on this team. I think it's just too deep. They love Marlon. They love Naheem. They love Jonathan Taylor. They're not caring for running backs. I see him being that kind of player who subs in, and if you have the hot hand, hey, man, what better way than to plug in a former 1,000-yard running back just simply 2 seasons ago? So, I mean, I can see that. And then the other part of the question was it about receivers? It was about who's going to lock. I think we've talked about that a lot too, where my mind is receiver. Me and you, I think, are in 100% agreement that Pittman's receiver 2 to start the year. He ends the year at 1. T.Y. Hilton's 1, probably ends the year at 2. And in my opinion, Paris Campbell's 3. That's kind of my top 3 is what I think how it shakes out. I just think that about halfway through the year, you've said it, you see the passing of the torch from T.Y. to Pittman, who looks, by the way, if you look at pictures of him showing up to camp, looks great, looks ready. They all look so ready.
Yep. 100%. I mean, that's, for me, those are your 1, 2, 3, whatever order you want to kind of put those guys in. But you guys, that's your 1, 2, 3 wide receivers for sure.
Yeah. So the great thing with this platform too is we see like right where we're at. It's no longer guessing. We are exactly at an hour. So we're going to wind it down really quickly. We're going to end this with we're so excited for me, I'm just excited to be back. It was really cool last week to be kind of like you've always said to tap in as a listener and have no clue. Like, don't think like I had no clue what was going to be talked about. So it was brand new. It was so much fun to listen to and just get to be a fly on the wall and listen to that. I'm glad to be back, but I'm also just glad that football's back. That's Absolutely. That's it. So like it says at the bottom, please rate, review, subscribe, share, follow, whatever it is you do. Go to our YouTube channel. These videos are going to be on there. We're going to have the Apple Podcast, all those great things. We got really cool stuff coming, live ones. Maybe I can convince Zach to do a quick little live video from training camp next weekend. Who knows? Those are really cool things that we're going to be able to do. And it's because of you guys. So I got nothing else, man, unless you do. I love you. Zach loves you. We're out.